Hey everyone, Andrew here, and it's time for another Fighting the Hate. So, Valentine's Day just happened, and I knew I needed to do a romance something for this month, either a book or a film or a television show or something. And the film that I'm going to talk about, I actually thought about doing like September of last year. Like, I was very gung-ho and really happy and wanted to do and to defend this film. And then I was like, oh, wait, Halloween's around the corner. I should probably do a horror movie for Halloween. And then I can't do a Fighting the Hate followed by another Fighting the Hate, so I'll have to put that off. And Christmas is around the corner. I should either do a Christmas movie or, Avatar, since Avatar 2 is finally coming out. And then it's like, this got pushed back and back, and then it was like, oh, I can do it for Valentine's Day. And then January came and went, and I'm like, oh, I know I need to do that one, but what am I going to talk about? And it's not because I don't think the film's good, because I think the film is very good. My reason for being hesitant and not really necessarily sure I want to do this is I'm not 100% certain why people don't like this. Like, I went and I looked at reviews, I went and looked at, critics scoring, this, that, and the other, and the only thing I could really get from it is that the two leads, being Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz, were too old for this parts. Being in their 40s, ugh, they're not going to appeal to the young people. We need younger stars, not these old people. And then, this film's dumb. You're dumb if you liked it. You're dumb if you enjoy it, because it's so stupid. Don't watch it. It's dumb. And I'm, like, sitting here going, no, it's not. Like, do you have an actual complaint? No? So, trying to defend this has been a little tricky, but I'm going to do that today. So today I will be talking about Night and Day, starring Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz from 2010.
On three. Ready? One.
And I will say, when I went to go see this in theaters, I did not have high hopes for this film, because it starred two actors that I did not like. I hated Cameron Diaz and Tom Cruise during this time frame. This film, though, did change my opinion on them and raised the stock to them to the point where Tom Cruise now is one of my favorite actors to see, and anytime he's in theaters, I actually enjoy going to watch it and watching it in theaters. It's just weird to me, because when I watched it, I was like, everyone should probably see this, and they probably get something out of it. And then years later, had so much people being like, oh no, that film's terrible. And I'm like, why? And they'll be like, it's dumb. And I'm like, what about it's dumb? It's just dumb. Okay. But let's go a little bit over the plot. So the plot of Night and Day is fairly simple, with a little spy espionage to make it unnecessarily complicated. I'm not going to bother with the character names because it's not important. I'm just going to call them Tom and Cameron. So, Cameron Diaz is a mechanic. She is boarding a plane to fly home, and she runs into Tom Cruise's character.
I'm so sorry.
Boston.
Yeah.
K-12.
And they get through the baggage check and end up bumping into each other right outside the plane terminal. And it's like, oh, we're on the same flight. And they've been flirting a little bit in the line and been cutesy. Cameron Diaz's character goes to check in, and the person behind the desk is like, oh, unfortunately, you have been bumped, and you'll be going on a later flight today, unfortunately. Tom Cruise is like, well, some things happen for a reason, and gets on the plane. And we find out that there's this CIA agent named John Fitzgerald who has been following Tom Cruise and now believes that Cameron Diaz's character is working with Tom Cruise. So he basically makes it that she can get on the plane. And she and Tom are flirting on the plane, and the plane is basically empty except for like 6 other passengers. And she's like, that's really weird that they bumped me from this empty flight. And he's like, yeah, huh? And then she goes into the restroom to freshen up, and literally the 6 other passengers get up, pull guns, and immediately start attacking Tom Cruise.
Something. And he killed everybody on board.
inadvertently ends up killing the flight crew and the pilots. And then so he goes back to his seat, and Cameron Diaz comes back, and she's like, "Oh, how's everything going?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, fine. We don't have a pilot."
Pilots are dead.
Yeah, they've been shot.
By who?
Me. Actually, I shot the first pilot. He shot the second one accidentally. You know, one of those things.
We're gonna crash, but he gets in the pilot seat and manages to land the plane.
Next thing you know, I wake up. I'm in my room. I have no idea how I got there.
And she sees on the news that there was a plane crash, that there was no survivors, and she's talking to her ex-boyfriend who...
I want to talk about the plane crash. Okay?
Sure. What about it?
I was on it. I mean, in it. I was...
Tom Cruise's character just pops in. He's like, "Oh, hey! Good to see you again."
No, okay.
Hi, June. Maybe I didn't make it clear enough, but we're gonna have to stick together.
I'm sorry, who are you?
This is the guy.
I'm the guy. The guy. I'm the guy. Please, for
Ronnie,
your own
listen,
safety,
whatever happens.
please stay in the booth.
What are you talking about?
We need to go. And it's like, she's like, "Wait, why?" And it's like, "'Cause the CIA is after me, and now they think you're associated with me, so they're after you. We need to go." And her ex-boyfriend doesn't want her to leave with a strange guy, so Tom Cruise pulls out a gun.
Oh, everybody get down. No one follows us, or I kill myself and then her.
And pretends to take Cameron Diaz's character hostage, and they try to make an escape. Cameron Diaz gets, grabbed by the CIA, but Tom Cruise manages to rescue her.
Hey, dude.
Basically, he reveals what's going on, which is like, "I used to work for the CIA. I was working with this special inventor named Simon Fecht, who was making this thing called the Zephyr. It was going to be a perpetual energy battery. And my partner, Fitzgerald, wants to steal the battery, and I knew that he was doing it, so I took the battery and the inventor before he could steal it. Now he's after me and has convinced the CIA that I'm the one trying to sell the battery, and is framing me for trying to steal the battery, and now I have to make sure he doesn't get it. He convinces Cameron Diaz, like, "You need to stay with me because they're going to come after both of us, and I can protect you if you're with me."
Right now, out there on your own, your life expectancy is like here. With me, it's here. Without me, here. With me, without me. With me, without me.
While also having this underlay of, like, "No, I just actually want to be around you because I like you in a way." And it leads to some really funny stuff, and I'm not going to go too much more into the plot there, because it's all a big mystery of who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. They do at a certain point try to convince you that Tom Cruise is the villain of the piece, and he's the one that tended to steal the battery.
He's been playing you. He's a spy. That's what he does.
I know exactly what to believe.
June, I think I get down now.
And that Fitzgerald is working with the CIA properly. And yeah, no, it's not. It's clearly not going to happen because it's Tom Cruise as the lead. Like, this isn't one of the films that he's going to become a villain in. This isn't Vanilla Sky or anything. It's like, this is just him as action hero. But I will say, this is a film that I super enjoy. I think it's really funny. I think it's got good characters, interesting story. I like the action set pieces. The comedy really works in this for me. And again, that's from someone who went into this film hating Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz. And when it comes down to breaking down what I don't like about those actors, or what I didn't like about those actors at the time, and what about in this film changed my mind, it's like, what changed my mind, I'm not 100% sure. What I didn't like about them, I can actually explain fairly easily. There were two things with Tom Cruise, because I'd only seen him in like 2 or 3 movies at this point in my life. The first thing I'd seen him in like the original Mission Impossible, which I thought was fine. I'd seen it in like on VHS, so I was like, meh. And then I went to see Mission Impossible 2, and I despised Mission Impossible 2. I thought it was so dumb and so unwatchable and so goofy and over the top and ridiculous and just ugh, for me. And it was for many years, most of like late elementary school, middle school time, it was my least favorite film, which was kind of interesting because I had a friend where that was his favorite film, and I was like, really, this is your favorite? Wow. But yeah, I despised the Mission Impossible 2, and I still don't like that film. Like, I rewatched it in the last 5 years or so, just trying to give it another shot, and I still think it's literally one of the worst things he's done. And then the other one was War of the Worlds. And Tom Cruise is fine in War of the Worlds, and it's a decent film. It was a lot of it was the hype around that film and how Tom Cruise acted during that point, because this was the whole going on Oprah and jumping on the couch, insane Tom Cruise, who's all about his ego and his attitude, and like we all a little bit hated Tom Cruise at that point in our lives. Like, come on.
Tom, we've never seen you behave this way before.
I know.
Have you ever felt this way before?
He was just like an undetestable heel at that point in his career. And then the film was solid with a bad ending. Like, literally, like, the only thing I really don't like about War of the Worlds is, like, the last 5 minutes, because apparently every single one of his family members survived, including the grandparents and the son, who ran off into a napalm explosion and somehow survived that with no traceable marks. And then for some reason, all of this family just stayed in the house. Like, it feels like this entire ending is a dream sequence. That's how odd it is. It's like, you're half expecting there just to be a shot of Tom, like, you see that and then the light flares and you just see Tom Cruise dead in a field next to his daughter. Like, you're expecting that, and I think that might have bumped the movie up for me if that had been the case. But yeah, it was a decent film, but I had a very reaction to it because of that terrible ending. I despised him after that. I was like, I'm not watching anything Tom Cruise related, which is probably why it took me so long to watch Top Gun, despite having owned it for most of my life, or my mom having owned it for most of my life. And then I watched him in Night and Day, and he has some of the attitude, but he's also just a lot more charming, a lot more grounded, and a lot more interesting. It's like his character is a super being kind of in this, where it's like, super agent can get out of any situation with.
Hey, dude, it's a beautiful dress. Wait a second. This is wild.
Without much effort. But because he has difficulty talking to Cameron Diaz and, talking to someone he has a crush on, it gives him a little more depth. And since this film, he's made nothing but bangers as far as I'm concerned. Like, with the exception of The Mummy, which I don't even blame on Tom Cruise. I don't think that Tom Cruise is the reason that film is bad. Actually, he's one of the few reasons that film is watchable. But every other film he's done is amazing. All of the, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, Fallout, Edge of Tomorrow, Top Gun Maverick, literally everything he's done since Night and Day in 2010 has been awesome and pretty good, and has something redeemable in it. Like, he's been amazing in a bunch of films since then, and he's only gotten better as an actor, I think, in his later years. Which, granted, he's gotten to the point where he now has that trope where it's like, I run in every film and I have to do my own stunts, but it's like, that makes the film more interesting. It's like, it adds to the spectacle, and it makes his films, like, he can do generic action films. Even The Mummy, it's like, he was strapped to the side of a building thing and got spun around for the crash, the plane scene. But because he's pushing the limits, and because he's doing most of his own stunts and doing these insane things, it makes even the more mundane of his films more interesting and better off. And as for Cameron Diaz, well, I did not like her from the start. First thing I saw her in was My Best Friend's Wedding, where she's the shrill fiancé, and it's like, yeah, she's the worst part of that film. The rest of that film is great. Cameron Diaz is the one thing that I'm like, oh, with that film. And then she's the worst part of the Charlie's Angels films, so she has so many long sequences, which is just her shaking her ass at the camera. then after Night and Day, I still don't particularly like Cameron Diaz. I like her in Night and Day, and I like her in the Shrek franchise, and there's a couple other ones where she's okay-ish in, but I did not change, she did not dramatically change my opinion like Tom Cruise did. I definitely haven't gone and rewatched all of her films and had a dramatic change in my opinion on her films. But I can definitely stand to watch her a lot more than I used to. Like, I used to fast forward through any of her scenes in My Best Friend's Wedding, and now I just watch the film and just enjoy it. But I will say she is very good in this film. She does have a little bit of that grating, whiny voice in it, but it all works well with her character and has really interesting ideas to it. As for the film, so, like, I legitimately did not know why people didn't like this film. Like, and I went through and I read reviews, and literally every review was just like, this film's dumb. And they're, like, posting things like, oh yeah, this film was a flop, kind of. Even though it made $261 million, it's considered a flop. Because it did poorly in its debut weekend. Like, on its debut weekend, it made $3.8 million, where the film it was going up against, Toy Story 3, made $13 million. The problem with that isn't the film. Like, the problem was Fox was dumb enough to put something up against Toy Story 3. Like, when the most beloved Pixar franchise and the final trilogy, you know, that was supposed to be the end point for all of Toy Story, of course that film made $13 million its opening weekend. No duh. Like, they basically sent Night and Day out to die against that. Like, why would you do that? It's like high energy, low impact was one of the descriptors, and it's like, and I'm like sitting here going, did we watch the same film? Like, because people are like, there's no character depth or development, and I'm like, no, there is. Like, it's not the most obvious thing. This isn't a character study, it's an action film, you know, but there is a character growth and development in this. Tom Cruise's character starts off as a relatively perfect, and then by being with Cameron Diaz, you see his one kind of flaw, and he starts to make a smidge more mistakes, but he overall, you know, it becomes a more well-rounded person. And then Cameron Diaz's character has a whole arc of where she started off meek and screwing up and screaming at every little thing, to the point where by the end she's the one that rescues Tom Cruise.
Hey, fellas. Just how it's gonna be.
And it's like, they're like, the action is dumb in this. It's like, no, it's not. It's really interesting, really kinetic, got a good filming way it's shot. There's just so much fun in that, in the action stuff. The two things that I would be like, okay, you're right, can be a little bit dumb, is the fact that they get out of every situation with ease, and then that the villains somehow keep finding them for no reason. Like, there's a lot of situations where they're like, we're in a dire situation, there's no chance of us getting out, and then Tom Cruise just like gasses Cameron Diaz and she passes out, and then she'll wake up on a beach.
Drink this.
What is it? Where's yours? What am I wearing?
Bikini. From tropics.
How did I get in the bikini?
I've been trained to dismantle a bomb in the pitch black with nothing but a safety pin. Get you in and out of some clothes without looking. I'm not saying that's what I did, but...
She's like, wait, what? What happened? And yeah, that's a bit of a cheat, but it also makes sense because they set up that Tom Cruise is this uber spy, and literally the only weakness he has in those situations is Cameron Diaz. So once she's passed out and out of the way, he can just get out of the situations because he's Tom Cruise.
I know this looks bad, but we'll be out of here in a couple of minutes. I got this.
Like, it works extremely well, I feel. I don't think it is a dumb action film. I think it is a solid action film with good comedy and really good characters and a little bit of romance. Like, people are like, one of the reviewers compared this to Killers, starring Ashton Kutcher and Katherine Heigl, and I'm like, you take that back. Like, jeez Louise, what a slap in the face. Like, ugh. Like, no, like, Killers is awful. It's horrible characters, horrible writing, horrible story. Like, this is none of those things. Like, this is an enjoyable, good film that you can have a lot of fun with. Like, Killers is terrible, just absolutely terrible. People saying it's dumb and it's a dumb film and you're dumb for watching it. It's just like, it's not even that dumb. Like, I can totally see someone saying that for, like, the Fast and the Furious franchise. But we live in a world where there's the Sharknado franchise. Like, you can't really say that this is one of the dumbest films you've ever seen if you've ever even seen the trailer for Sharknado. Or even, like, Mission Impossible 2, where it's a film where you're just watching it and you're going, that is so stupid! Like, there's not any moment in this film that really makes me do that. Like, it's a turn your brain off and enjoy kind of film. And if you can't do that, well, I feel bad for you, because it's a lot of fun if you can enjoy it. And then I see a lot of complaints about it's like Cameron Diaz and Tom Cruise were too old for this film, and I'm like, they were in their 40s. They weren't even that old. Like, Tom Cruise is still going good well into his late 50s, early 60s. Like, I could see him doing action films for another 10 years. Hell, a couple years after this, we get Taken, and you got freaking 75-year-old Liam Neeson doing Taken action films, where they have to do 15 cuts just to show him jumping over a fence because they couldn't get the actor to do it and have it look good. And it's all vapid. Like, all the complaints about this film are incredibly vapid and stupid, and it's just like, it's like, yeah, of course this isn't this deep intellectual, character study. It's an action film. It's a summer blockbuster. It's meant to be lighthearted and fun and goofy and a little stupid, but also just enjoyable. Like, it's like, and I feel like everyone that reviewed this is like the old man critics, where they're like, I'm back in my day, the films were did it. It's like, not every film is going to be Citizen Kane. Not every film should be Citizen Kane. Like, the reason Citizen Kane is good is because it's a rarity. Some days we just want an Independence Day. We just want a film that is fun, enjoyable, and you can turn your brain off and just laugh and have a good time. And I think Night and Day is a good example of that, and it raised my stock with two of my least favorite actors. And still not love Cameron Diaz, but I'm more willing to watch her now because of Night and Day, and I grew to really like Tom Cruise and really love his style of acting and performing. So I think Night and Day deserves a lot more respect and acceptance. And I think, if nothing else, it's worth a watch once. Like, if you don't like it, I can completely understand. Like, it's an action film. It's not going to speak to everybody. For me, though, it was one of my favorite films of that year. It's one of my favorite action films. It's Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz films. But that's just my opinion. What do you all think? Is this a good film? Is this a bad film? Have you seen it? Is there things that you specifically do not like about this film that you'd like me to touch on that I didn't? Let me know in the comments below. Happy watching, happy reading. I will see you all next time. Bye!